So it has a Brew heart-shaped mug, well not heart-shaped mug, but a mug with hearts in it. Cornish breakfast tea, I think this is, from the Cornish Tea and Coffee Company, I think it's called, which is based in Truro, which I will be giving away some stuff when we reach 1,000 subscribers, which at the moment is 6 away. We are 6 away from it, and that's really exciting, that's really good. And thank you ever so much for getting to that stage. Hopefully we can get to 1,000 by next week, and then we can look at sort of creating a giveaway package, which will contain many things, including mugs and tea, and maybe something like a Chromecast, and maybe something else as well. I did and ah about maybe putting something big in there, maybe, you know, perhaps maybe a tablet, I'm not too sure. Kind of all depends. It would be really great if I had a sponsor, which means I could then just give away really cool stuff. But unfortunately, I don't have that, and so therefore I can't just give away, you know, really cool stuff like phones and tablets and really expensive things like mics and all that stuff. So, there is a severe lack of news. The only real piece of news is that Apple released some new MacBook Airs, and that was kind of it. So what I thought I'd talk about is the Mac Mini, which I actually picked up at the weekend. I actually sold my... Well, actually I'm going to talk about the Mac Mini, I'm going to talk about console gaming and things like that. And Apple and many things. But I actually sold my iPad 3 and I didn't have an iPad for a day, and I kind of missed it within that day. It was just silly things that I do on my iPad that I can't do on my Nexus device. My Nexus 7 is alright, but it's kind of... it's limited in terms of what it can do. It's not as user-friendly, and things like Instagram, for instance, and to a certain extent Twitter, aren't as easy to use as they are on the iPad. So when you kind of want a tablet display and you want that size, it just doesn't feel right. So on Saturday I went out and I bought a suit, and I then went back, and because I've got my my university ID, which would then get me some discount in the Apple shop, I went to the Apple shop and I ummed and ahed between the iPad Air and between the iPad Mini, after having already had an iPad 3, and I ummed and ahed for ages, and then I also ummed and ahed about getting a MacBook Pro / iPad, a MacBook Air, and then I looked at the Mac Pros and I was like, well, and the Mac Mini, and I was like, well, and I almost did lay down quite a, you know, almost, well, pretty much £1,000 on a new MacBook Pro in the end, but I didn't. I held back, and I'm quite glad I did, because apparently, according to Mac Rumours, there is supposed to be a new one coming out. So, but in the end I opted for an iPad Mini with the Retina display. 319 quid. Didn't get any education discount, which is a bit of a shame. But hey, I mean, 319 quid for that device, pretty good. I'm now regretting not buying the iPad Air because of the screen size. So the reason I did buy an iPad Mini is because size, portability, weight, and the fact that I wanted an iOS device. So I have my Nexus 7, and it does a job, it's reasonably good, but for taking on the road, it's just rubbish. What I've always loved about iOS, specifically iOS, ignore the hardware for a minute, iOS is bloody good. As much as people like to slag it off, it just kind of works. I mean, it is more buggy than Android. I think I have more crashes on it. In terms of its usability, the iPad, or the iOS, is just so easy to use. I can literally chuck an iOS device at anybody and they can just go away and use it. You know, and it doesn't really matter what app it is, unless it's something stupidly horrendous. Just trying to think of an app that isn't necessarily intuitive to use. Most of the apps that are designed for iOS are really intuitive because they have to follow Apple's guidelines anyway, and so they kind of work really well out of the box, and it's fine. I mean, to be fair, most Android apps are really easy to use because they've also got to kind of adhere to Android's unofficial guidelines. There's like some official guidelines, I can't remember what they call them now, but you don't have to adhere to them, but it kind of helps. Pretty much all Google apps have a kind of like a swipe from the left sort of design, so that then you can kind of go back into the sub menus, and obviously they got the 3 dots for the menu button. But the iPad Mini is just, it's really good. It's great for taking on the road, it's great for using around about the office, it's great for using at home. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. The only downside I can see thus far with the iPad Mini is its size. I mean, the difference between sizing on both the iPad and the Nexus 7 is, I mean, they're quite, let's just turn them off, both off for a minute, because else it'll start touching stuff. In terms of size comparison, that there is the difference. And it does make a difference. You don't realise it until you actually use it. But that little bit of a difference there, I can't remember how much it is. It's not much. Maybe 10 mil, if that. Maybe a little bit more than that actually. It's just 15 mil. In terms of its spec, it's actually a 9 mil difference in terms of its width. Now you can still hold both devices in the hand really easily. Like there's no, you can easily hold them both in the hand. That's fine, and you can use them both sort of similar. But the fact that the Nexus 7 is slightly thinner and slightly narrower and more book-like, it makes it so much easier, especially when I take it around for work. It fits in my pocket, any pocket, pretty much. It fits in my trouser pocket, it fits in my my cargo pockets on the side of my trousers, it fits in a back pocket, it fits literally anywhere, and I can literally just chuck this anywhere. And it fits really well with my notebook, so I carry around a paper notebook as well back in the old days, because it's a lot easier to do that than it is to type shit up. I'm sorry, but it just is. It's a lot easier to use a pen and paper than it is to carry around a tablet typing things out. The actual reason I carry a tablet is for the tools that I need to use, things like remote desktop, things that I can do on the go, things if I need to use the internet for some stuff. There's some tools that are all online that obviously can't use with a paper and pen, and some places in the building I can't get phone signal because we've got a walk around phone and that doesn't always get signal, and so I can't bring that back to the office to say, can you check so and so, or can you unfreeze this machine or whatever. So yes, the iPad is a little bit big for work purposes. I can carry it around, but I can't fit it in any pockets because it's just too big. But it still fits in the hand okay, it's still nice to hold, it's still really good, and I'm generally really impressed with it. It's really good to use on the road. Because it's slightly wider, it gives you better, well, it's not necessarily better for video viewing, because obviously, because it's got it's not a 16:9 display. I mean, the Nexus 7 isn't a 16:9 anyway, but because it's not closer to 16:9, it's closer to, well, I think it's pretty much 4:3, 16:10. Most things are shot and filmed, especially even this video, 16:9 is what it is. So the Nexus 7 can fit the thing on the screen in a 16:9 format, no problem at all, with maybe some few bars at the top and the bottom. The iPad has a huge bars, but it's still better for video. Because, well, A, the case that goes with it is just a lot easier and better. Because it's got the smart cover, which is a lot better than the weird smart covery thing, and the Nexus 7 has. It's also a lot cheaper, because to get the Nexus 7 folio case, the red one, which is the one I really want, it's 35 quid, not including shipping. Shipping's then an extra, maybe about 10 quid on top. I think it might drop down to 3 quid reasonably recently. But that's still 37 quid on a case to protect your Nexus 7 and to prop it up right, which is kind of a little bit ridiculous. Whereas the iPad one, I think it is only 25 quid, I think. And so that's a much better price than the Nexus 7 equivalent. And it also raises it up off the table a little bit more. And I don't know, the colours seem to pop better. It just seems to, video looks better on the iPad mini than it does on the Nexus 7. Eventually I will do a compare and contrast and do a proper, like, a proper in-depth look at it, but this is kind of like a bit of a preamble really, because I've got nothing else to talk about to brew time. So the second thing I wanted to talk about is MacBooks and Apple and all that other kind of stuff. And to a certain extent gaming PCs, and then we'll go on to consoles and stuff. So I am actually looking for a MacBook Pro, and I'm going to hold off until they actually announce a new MacBook Pro. And the reason I want a Mac, and people will probably slate me for, oh, why the hell do you want a Mac? Why don't you go Linux, or why don't you do any of this? The reason I want a Mac is because I've got to know the technology inside out for everything. And unfortunately I'm not in a position where my place of work wants to give me a device to play around with, because, well, I don't really know why. They've got no, money isn't really an object necessarily. They've got money left, right and centre they can burn pretty much. So there's no reason for them not to give me one. The excuse they've used is because we use a third-party contractor to deal with all our Apple support. And so all I wanted was a MacBook Pro or something, or MacBook Air or something to test for 2 weeks, just so I can kind of get used to macOS. That's all I wanted. But obviously, I mean, 2 weeks isn't going to be enough for me to actually learn it inside out, but it's going to give me enough just to help users out. So yeah, that's kind of why I want a MacBook. I also need to replace my laptop. My dying Vio in the corner, it's a piece of shit, it gets too hot, it's crap. You can video render on it and you can game on it, it's just rubbish for doing so. It just really gets really hot. It's not the best thing ever. I mean, it's got an SSD in it. It runs really fast, and I can browse the internet on it, and I can video edit on it, or video edit on it if I really need to. But I've got a proper rig behind me. So what I need is I need to replace my laptop anyway. I was going to go with a System 76. Is it System 76? System 74 system because I wanted to have Linux, and then I was going to just run Windows in a virtual machine because I wanted Linux to be my primary operating system while I'm on the go. But realistically, I still need to be able to video edit on the fly, and with the best will in the world, you can't run Sony Vegas in a virtual machine. You certainly couldn't really run it in Wine that well. So I need a dedicated Windows installation, and how well that will run within that I don't know. Plus it's very expensive. For the same amount of money I can get myself a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air, which are built better and they've got Mac OS on it, and so there's all those sort of added benefits. Obviously a Retina display and stuff like that. So because I need to be able to learn Mac, and because I need to replace my laptop, and because I need some power behind it, I figure, well, I may as well go and buy a MacBook Pro. Going to be about £1,000, I think 1099 I think is the price I'm looking for, because I want all the RAM, and I could deal with at least a 250 gig SSD drive, which I may as well get Apple to do because it's only extra 150 quid. On top of the normal base price of 900 and something odd for the education discount, because I will get education discount, which is really good. So as opposed to spending 1,200 quid, I'll only probably end up paying 1,100, maybe a little bit less than that. So yes, that's why I want to go and get a Mac. I don't really care for other people's opinion on this, because it really annoys me, even if it's just banter, when people start banging on about this, that and the other, about, well, why do you need to go buy one of those things? When it's not their money, I don't give a shit. Like, if the very day you turn around to me and say, here's some money, go and buy something, fair enough. I'll put my hands up and say, yep, okay, yep, you can tell me what I can buy with that money. But until such a time that you're paying me, then no, you don't have a say on what I do, what happens. If I earned enough money from this, then yes, fair enough. Your comments would probably count for stuff. But I honestly don't care for your opinion on whether or not I should or should not get a Mac. It's happening. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, couple of months, I shall go out and buy one. I might just buy a used one actually on eBay and just upgrade it, because that might be cheaper, but I'm not too sure, because I'm not too fussed about Haswell that much. We'll sort of see what happens with the new MacBook Pro line when it comes out, see what happens there. If I had all the monies, I would definitely go out and, well, tomorrow, I would just go out and buy a Mac Pro, fully configure it up to the max, and I would just have that. Probably not as my main machine, but I would then have 3 screens and it would just be beastie. But again, if I had all the money, I would then have a better house, and I wouldn't be living with my parents. Well, I wouldn't be living with my parents if I had loads of money. But the reason I'm living with my parents is because of my job situation, not because I'm poor. But yes, I would go out and buy a Mac Pro, that dustbin thing, because it's just amazing. I mean, the engineering behind it is insane, and it does look really good, and the form factor and everything else is really, really cool. But equally, I would also go out and buy a 4K camera. There's a really nice 4K camera kicking around at the moment, which is about £2,000. I think there's a consumer version which is 1,300 quid, and there's a professional kind of 4K camera that Sony have brought out, which is £4,000, I think it is at the moment. And I would go out and buy that tomorrow if I had the money, and I would love to be able to do that, and I would love for this to be my primary job, because I would go out and buy it tomorrow, and it would mean you could see my beautiful face in 4K, and it'd be all great and fandabidulzy. But as it transpires, I can't afford that, and that's which is a bit of a shame. The last thing I wanted to discuss was console gaming, because the other day I almost bought PlayStation 4 for 315 quid. Tesco's Direct, because that's how cheap consoles are now becoming. Like, the next gen consoles are coming tanking in prices. I mean, it's only just come out and it's reducing in price by ridiculous amounts. And probably by Christmas it's probably going to drop again, maybe to about 300 quid for both consoles, which would be fantastic. And the reason I want to buy a console, I've got a PC and it needs upgrading. I desperately need to upgrade it. Maybe after I've bought a Mac, I might look at trying to upgrade that. I need to spend about £1,000, 1,200 quid just on a new rig. It'll probably be a mini ITX system actually, because it'll be good then to be able to carry it around places. So I'm trying to look at maybe getting a Bit Phoenix, one of those little cases that mini ITX cases that look sweet, that you can get on overclockers at the moment for about 60 quid. Probably a bright ginger one, because why the hell not? It'll take up less space on my desk, it'll make less noise, and I can cart it around everywhere, here, there and everywhere if I need to, which will be really good for when and if I go on the road. But yeah, the reason I want to get a console is because of, well, basically because of exclusives. Things like GTA 5, which currently is not out for the PC, it probably will eventually be out for the PC, but things like GTA 5, things like Forza, things like Gran Turismo, whatever the new one will be, and because it also gives me an all-in-one system to do everything on. Now obviously one of the downsides to console gaming is the fact that, well, A, you have to be always online now, B, I probably won't go with an Xbox One, because A, I've heard lots of bad things in terms of hardware, and I've also heard some really bad things about Xbox Live. I mean, not necessarily in terms of reliability, but the fact you've got to be always on and all that other crap, and there's an update every 5 seconds. Is really crap for me where I currently live because of my third world internet that I have here. 4 megabytes down is just shockingly bad, and it's just crap, which is why I have to upload this sort of stuff at work now as opposed to at home, which is really annoying because actually would probably take more than 24 hours to upload the video. But yeah, so I kind of do want to kind of get a gaming console, and it probably will be round about the Christmas time, and because I've got a monitor, that's fun. I've got some Astro 40 which I'll plug into it, which will give me great sound. That means I don't have to then wake everybody up, and it'll run quieter, it'll run cooler, and it'll just take up, it won't use as much electricity, and there's loads of real benefits to using a console. Obviously the downsides are frame rates are shit, and there's all that other kind of stuff, but it just works out of the box. You don't have to fanny around with settings, and yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go in towards that. It's not going to be my primary gaming platform, but it's going to be the platform I'm going to be looking at increasing my gaming towards, especially when I'll have loads of spare time on the weekends, once I've made sure I've got these projects out of the way for YouTube, which include obviously IP file stuff and a few other bits and pieces. But after next weekend, or after this weekend, I will be out of Plymouth forever. Well, in terms of me living there. So, which will be good because that means that I can dedicate my time to actually creating some content for YouTube. So the IP file stuff needs to be done. There's a few other there's a Raspberry Pi thing I want to try and do, and there's a few other bits and pieces that really I could do with actually getting sorted, which I can't really do at the moment because I haven't actually got the time. I've only really got like Wednesday evenings to kind of sort shit out. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say. There's not really much more to ramble on about. My t-shirt this week is an IT Crowd one, which came from QWERTY, I don't know, a few weeks ago now, a month ago maybe. I can't remember who the artist is, and you can probably find it on the internet by using Google, because Google is your friend. Well, maybe Google search is your friend as long as you're anonymised. But yeah, there's literally nothing else I can really think about to talk about. Probably something will happen tomorrow and I'll be like, oh shit, I should have talked about so-and-so. But yes, I think that's pretty much it. So obviously comment down below, let me know what your thoughts on things, crapple stuff, gamers consoles or other shite. This has been a reasonably crap brew time, but so there's not really been that much to talk about, it's just kind of my ramblings. I will do a versus of these two tablets at some point, probably next weekend, when I get some time. So yes, apart from that, I shall catch you in a later video.